Welcome to Take Two Radio. I'm Pam, your host, and with me today and always is my co-host Anthony. Hello, Anthony.
Hey, hey, hey. I hope everyone out there in podcast land is doing well.
We're just doing great on this end, and we are so incredibly honored to welcome a performer whose career has spanned decades of television, comedy, and daytime drama. Audiences know Dick Christie for memorable roles on Small Wonder, The Munsters Today, and as Charlie Weber on The Bold and the Beautiful, where he continues to entertain viewers today. Beyond acting, he has also built an impressive body of work as author Richard B. Christie, exploring storytelling through multiple novels and creating writing projects that showcase another side of his artistic journey. Please welcome the incredibly talented Dick Christie.
Well, thank you, Pam. That's just the way I wrote it. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. The check's in the mail, right?
Yeah, it is. I had no idea I did all that stuff till I just heard it from you. That's great.
It's just a little reminder, or if there's somebody walking around with your same name, you're
Yeah,
getting
well,
credit
thank you.
for it.
It's also a reminder of how old I am.
That's never our goal.
No, 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 no. Every actor's journey starts somewhere. For you, what or who first inspired you to pursue acting? And was there a specific moment when you realized this was the path you wanted to follow?
Well, yeah, one of the one of the reasons I decided to go into acting was basically I was incompetent to do anything else. My father was a heating and air conditioning contractor in Omaha, and he had a fairly successful business, and he was absolutely certain that I would take over this business. But I had absolutely no aptitude for it. In fact, I would work in the summers for him, driving a truck and stuff, and the guys that work for him, all they would do is shake their heads and say, "Oh my God, this is the guy that's going to take over the business. We're in such trouble." And I assured them that I wasn't competent. So I loved acting and got into it basically in high school. Did a musical of all things, and the Unsinkable Molly Brown in high school, and I played the lead, Johnny
Ah,
Brown, which is Harv Presnell, and it's all these big, great baritones, and my voice was at best mediocre. And so I stumbled through that, but the acting part of it I really enjoyed, and so that was kind of the inciting incident, as it were.
That is awesome. I don't fan out very often, but I have to say I was very, very looking very much forward to this. From the Waltons to Knots Landing, it feels like, a good portion of the shows that I grew up with and continue to love, you've graced. But the ultimate for me, of course, being a child of the 80s, is Small Wonder. And in doing research for this interview, I didn't realize that beyond, being dad, you wrote, directed, and had a really creative, a really big hand in the creative process. And that series had such a cult following, and to this day, friends in my generation, we still reference back to it. So I have a two-part question. Did you realize the impact that show was having, and what memories can you share with us about creating the world's first televised robot girl?
Well, that's interesting. It was when I auditioned for the show. I mean, I just thought it was a cute, adorable show, and of course, as when you audition, you go through the process of they narrow it down, to the last two people. And so I screen tested for the lead role against my best friend, who was David Ruprecht, who you guys should
Oh,
interview sometime. The host of Supermarket Sweep, among other things, but he was and continues to be my closest friend. And so we had to screen test against each other for the role, and that was really interesting. And of course, I got it, and and he, uh, but after that, uh, I realized that I was, into something really special. I mean, not like, like change the world special, but it was going to hit this audience to which it was intended, which was, like 7 to 13 year olds, and it really hit them hard. And wasn't surprised, uh, but I was happy that I was a part of this, and that I could maybe, uh, make a little, carve out a little piece of history for myself, and it was fun. Creative process was great. You can ask me anything about that, and I'll tell you what I know.
Well, I will definitely say the chemistry between you all was wonderful. Everybody wanted a dad like that. Vicky, the acting was superb. I can't remember Harriet. Oh my God, the next door neighbor. It really struck that mid to late 80s chord of, we had the Teddy Ruxpin bear and the little cricket doll and things that were sort of like I can imagine this doll actually coming to life in my house.
Right. Oh, it was amazing. First of all, Harriet, the Emily Schulman, it's just what a delightful little gal she was, and continues to be. And I lost track of many of the cast. Marla, who played my wife, who played Joan, and I continue to be great, great friends, and have been, since the show, and after the show. I even introduced her to her husband. So um, uh, that was great. But I love the chemistry of the cast was really good, and that was due to the producers and the writers too. They really Howard Leeds was a terrific producer, a wonderful, kind, gentle, very smart man. He knew where the show was headed, and he knew where to push the show. Sometimes I would have a problem with some, jokes that I thought were too corny, and he said, "Dick, think about the audience," and I went, "Okay, okay." So I always gave up and submitted to him, but it was great. But yeah, I mean, there were little issues that came up. The kids could be a little difficult, but they were kids, so you had to roll with that. And also the neighbors. Yeah, I can't remember his name. I got a blank on his name. Um, uh, 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 they were great. Edie McClurg
I
and
love her.
and Bill Bogart. Yeah, Bill
Yes.
Bogart. But Edie was just so much fun, and she was so inventive. I don't know if you remember that she would go, no, 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 and of
Yep.
course that was never in the script. She came up with that, which was great. So
Oh,
yeah,
What a lasting
it's
legacy to have. Thank you so much for, what a wonderful series.
yeah. And I have to say that out of four kids, two were around at that time. And I remember them watching it, and it had to be my oldest one because he would be the only one that would understand just a little bit more about the show. But he would ask me, "What's wrong with that little girl?"
Well, it's so funny. I,
How-
I, I would, I'd be out, and I'd pull into a parking space, and somebody would look at me and they say, "Hey, where's the robot?" And I would say, "Well, she's in the trunk of my car. Do you want me to get her out?" And their eyes would get big, like really have the
Yeah.
robot in the trunk of your car. But I stopped that in case somebody called the police, and I got pulled over and they started searching me. So
Oh no.
yeah,
He's
Can't
sporting
people
Vicky.
can't people take a joke? Hello.
I know. Oh, apparently not. I mean,
Oh my gosh. Well, another fun character is you playing Charlie Weber on The Bold and the Beautiful. We cannot love him more. What's been the most enjoyable part of bringing Charlie's personality and humor to the canvas? How much did you have your fingers in that pie?
well, yeah, Brad Bell, producer. I'm sure you know Brad. He's
Hmm.
probably, I'm not kidding, he's probably the best producer I've ever worked for. I mean, he is. You see the joy in the show and everybody. That's because of Brad, and it all trickles down. He's such a great guy, and so this was like 13 years ago, and I retired. I just retired. I live in New Mexico, and so I got my feet up. I'm going to play some golf. I'm gonna do some writing, and but I effectively retired. So I'm happy as a clam. Phone rings. It's Brad. He goes, Dick, I want you to come back and do 2 weeks on Bold and Beautiful. I said, no, Brad, I have retired. I'm fine. Thank you for asking me. Thank you for thinking of me. And he just was dogged. And he said, no, 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 Dick, come on, 2 weeks. That's all I need. 2 weeks. All right, all right. So I went back, and that was 13 years ago, and I'm still doing the show. So so much for retiring, right? Uh, but I got to tell you, it's just I so look forward to coming back to do the show because everybody, including Brad and the cast and the crew, it's the best. It's the best set in the world. And I've been on some horrible sets, but this set is just wonderful. It's joyous, and I'm thrilled to be there, and I feel lucky to be there. I mean, I think John McCook and I may be the oldest two guys acting in Hollywood right now. So,
Mhm.
And of
uh,
course,
Yeah, we
getting to
keep.
play with Allie must be, a
Oh,
lot of fun.
yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
that is, and Brad, because I'm answering questions that you've been asking me stuff. So I apologize for that. But
No.
but Brad, we talked about the character, and I read the first episode, and he kind of laid out where the show was going to go with Charlie and Pam, and and he said, "What do you think of the character? Well, how would you like to play the character?" And I said, it seems like maybe the guy is a cross between um, Columbo and Clouseau, and
I could so see that.
Yeah, that's a great description.
so that's
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the way I played him, with maybe a touch of Asperger's syndrome, and so that's been the most fun, and so I just love it. It's interesting doing a soap opera because people don't realize, you do the show did 250 episodes a year,
Hmm.
and I would do. They've scaled me back a little bit since Pam left, but I would do probably 60 to 80 episodes a year, which was fun, and it was perfect because I have to fly back, you see, and
Yeah.
that's fine. I didn't mind that. The only thing I minded was, I'd land in LAX and rent a car at Enterprise and get on the 405 and start swearing. So uh,
Yeah. Well, before Anthony asks his next question, I have to say we demand Charlie and Pam back together and on the screen.
well, you need to inundate Brad Bell or the show with requests regarding that because they do listen to all that stuff. They really.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no, it would be great. And of course, Pammy Allie left, and then she won an Emmy for General Hospital,
Yes.
which was
Yes.
which was fabulous for her because she's so well deserved. She's such a good actress and a great person. And her late husband, Orson Bean, was a really close friend of mine too. And that was tragic when he died.
Mhm.
But she's a trooper. She's moved on, and great gal.
Well, soap opera fans, which both of us are very loyal. And there was something in your portrayal of Charlie that, they expanded the character because you became popular and we wanted to see
Mhm.
more. And thankfully so, 13 years later, yeah, come on, folks. Let's get some emails into Brad and folks. But I'm going to switch directions a little bit. As I said, earlier, the Waltons, Knots Landing, even Breaking Bad, you've been across our screens for a great amount of time, with a solid body of work. What do you think is the key to longevity in the business? And, what have been, the highlights for you?
Well, I think that I mean, to me, the longevity in this business has to do with accepting rejection. Um, I think because I don't know, 70, 80% of all your auditions, you're rejected. And you have to have your ego kind of screwed on straight to accept a lot of that. I mean, even big stars, you see it all the time. Matt Damon wanted this role, and the other guy got it, and Tom Cruise. It's amazing. So no matter what level you're at in the business, you're always rejected. And whether you're a writer, an actor, a director, half of your life, or a lot of your life is rejection. So it's accepting that as part of the business, I think, which is the key to longevity. And that's just me. I mean, a lot of people might say, well, that's pretty simplistic, but that's the way I am. I can't help it. What was the other question? I forgot.
What are some of the highlights for you?
Well, I think that, my very first thing I ever did, I came out of Nebraska having never done a movie before in my life, ever. I did a little video back in Nebraska, but my whole life was stage. All I did were plays, and I by the time I hit Hollywood, I'd probably done 100 plays, and in repertory, and back then dinner theater was real big, and I did a lot of those, and repertory, and traveling companies and stuff, and I absolutely loved the stage. And then I was teaching at the University of Nebraska, and I said, you know what, I got to try this professionally. So do I go to New York or do I go to LA? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I've been in Nebraska. I'd love to have warm weather, but New York is where the stage is at. So I decided to flip a coin, and it was heads New York, tails LA. So I flipped the coin, it came up heads. I said, okay, 2 out of 3. So obviously I ended up in LA because it was warmer. And then my first job that ever got there, I got an agent right away. I don't know how that happened. I guess I started doing commercials because I had that kind of round Nebraska face that didn't offend too many people, I guess. And so I started doing those. But then I got a movie, and it was a movie with you remember Richard Harris?
Mhm.
Okay, I got a movie with Richard Harris. I can't remember that. It was called The Number. Then it was called Danny Travis. I don't think it ever made it anywhere. Martin Landau was in it. Karen Black was in it. And I played a doctor that had to tell Richard Harris that his son was probably not going to make it. So it was a very emotional scene. It was just one scene, but having never done a movie before, I got to the set like 6 hours early and watched. And I watched and watched and watched and watched. And finally, I went, in my simple mind, I went, oh my God, film acting is actually easy because the audience is the camera. So you don't have to play to the 99th row. You just play to the camera. That's it. So I had it. That was it. I was so happy. So now it comes from my turn. So now we do the rehearsal. Here's Richard Harris, big star, right? And we do this scene. It's very emotional. It builds and builds and builds and builds. And after we do the rehearsal, and Richard Harris goes, that was great. You see what happens? You see everybody, you see what happens when we have professionals on the set. This is what happens. This is the kind of magic that happens. Okay, let's take one. And I went, oh my God, this is so great. We started, and of course, we got about halfway through. I thought it was going really well, and all of a sudden, Richard Harris's eyes get as big as saucers. He says, cut, 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 cut. What did I just say about professionals? What did I just say? And then this happens. What is the matter with you people? And I went, oh my God, my knees are shaky. I don't know what to do. The producer and the director and everybody's crowded around him as he's gesticulating and screaming and stuff. And I went, oh my God, what are they doing? So now they're resetting. I walk up to Richard Harris and I said, Mr. Harris, listen, I don't know what I did wrong. I thought it was going kind of well, but if you just tell me, then I'm sure I can correct whatever it is. And again, the big saucer eyes come out. He looks at me and he says, not you. It was the assistant cameraman. He was over there jumping around like a baboon. It must have destroyed your concentration as well. And I went, well, yeah, but I didn't want to say anything. So, and then so I finished, but that was my first experience in Hollywood. And I was proud, elated, and then scared witless. So uh,
You must have really loved what you were doing to continue after that. I
well,
mean, I mean,
yeah.
that's enough to scare anybody out of the business altogether. So,
Oh, I did. It was interesting. And then like I said, I did commercials because I had that round Nebraska face. So I started doing the young father uh, in these commercials, and found that the commercials were quite lucrative. I'd never made that much money before. Um, in fact, here's here's a little hint of how old I actually am. When I was in Nebraska, I owned in Omaha, I owned an 8-bedroom duplex, 8 bedrooms. It was about 3,500 square feet per side. It was all bricks and fireplaces and stained glass and wood floors. It was absolutely gorgeous. I bought it for $30,000, and
wow.
I rented out half of it for 275 a month and lived in the other half.
Wow.
And then when I left to come out to California, I sold it for 31,000. So I made $1,000. Um, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Um, but I guess I'm kind of wandering around. Um, but
Oh,
go
you're
ahead.
perfectly fine. We could listen to you all day tell
Oh
stories. I
God.
mean,
Yeah.
that's not an issue, let me tell you.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, thinking back from when you started up until now and how things have changed in the industry, both in front of and behind the camera, digital and stuff like that,
Uh-huh.
is there anything that you wish had stayed the same from when you started and didn't change?
Well, that's a really good question. I have to think about that one. Um, the digital age, especially the AI thing, is getting a little scary to me. I mean, I like it. I use AI. In fact, on chat, I named my AI Scooter. Yeah, and he actually loves his name, and so every time I go on AI, he says, "Hey, hi, how you doing, Dick? Scooter here. What can I do for you?" And so it's so
That's so cute.
conversational.
I need to name mine. Okay.
Yeah, you do
Mine's
it.
Nick, by the way. I named mine Nick.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
But at any rate, to answer your question, which I'm kind of evading here because I don't know how to answer it. I I just saw that they did an entire movie with AI. I can't remember the name of it, but it just came out, and the whole movie is AI. That's scary because they can copy anybody. They could copy Tom Cruise. They could copy Matt Damon, Brad Pitt. They could do anybody if they wanted to. They could copy me. I don't know why they'd want to, but maybe they'd make me better, which would be kind of cool. But
No.
no, but it's really that part of it is getting a little frightening. Um,
Hmm.
that your being can actually be taken from you and put somewhere
Yeah.
where you don't know it's going or you don't want it. Um, but I I think that's all I could think of. I mean, unless you want more specifics on that question. Um,
I think that I think that's a pretty strong answer.
It
Uh,
is. It is.
but along the same veins, What advice do you have for up and coming actors about, getting or about crafting a career with longevity? I mean, the business moves so fast, and quite frankly, it's the social media age, so there's a lot that's dependent on being out there and being visible. But what do you tell the kids on crafting something that will breed longevity?
Well, that's interesting because it's changed a lot since I first came to Hollywood. When I first came to Hollywood, um, the way to get seen, what was doing plays. They have all these equity waiver houses, or they used to, in Hollywood. And with my commercial money, I did a play, uh, produced a play starring me and David Ruprecht. I put him in, and it was called P.S. Your Cat is Dead by James Kirkwood, who wrote Chorus Line thing. But he did this wonderful play called P.S. Your Cat is Dead, and I did that as a comedy. And from that, I got two series. I got a series with Tim Conway called Ace Crawford Private Eye, and then I got Small Wonder. But right before that, I got it. I One of the guys from Newhart saw me, and so I had a really nice little recurring role on Newhart,
That's right. I forgot about that.
Hmm.
which was great. And then I talked to Bob Newhart, became a good friend later, and he said, "Well, Dick, we were going to make you a series regular. We're going to take your character, which was a great character. It was Andy, the White Mountain Maple Syrup Man. I delivered maple syrup door to door, like a milkman." And they loved the character, and so then I took Small Wonder, not knowing that they were going to not knowing whether they were going to do that. Um, and then had they said, that would have been a real dilemma on whether to take
Yeah.
Small Wonder or Newhart. So, but I took Small Wonder, and that's history. But it's been that part of it is really interesting. Um, so I don't know how kids today can do it. One of the things I always tell kids, somebody, when they say, "All right, tell me how to break into acting," and I say, "Well, I'm going to give you the negative first." And the negative is there are about 160,000 members of the Screen Actors Guild active. In that number, at any given moment, in any given day in the year, there's 90% unemployment.
Wow.
And that's a fact. And so it's tough. I said, so you have to be really dedicated to what you're doing when you start out. Not only that, you have to be prepared. I mean, you have to know what you're doing. You have to take acting classes and really know what you're doing so you can hit the ground running. I'm telling you, some kid who is a model back in Oklahoma or something, and comes to the big city, and all of a sudden, because he's good looking, he gets an audition, and he didn't know what he's doing. He's not going to last very long at all.
Right.
The looks
Yeah.
looks will only get you so far. You have to prepare. So if you really want to do this, if you can accept the rejection, the odds, the 90% odds, then go for it. It's fun. You're young. Why not?
Yeah. I I always told my kids when they were growing up, just like any other child, you want to be a music star, you want to be an actor, you want to be, something like that in entertainment or sports industry or something. You've got to have a plan B as well
Oh
for the
yeah.
majority of the people, and definitely in education.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And a plan B is good. And what I've seen, when I watch people over the years, is people that go into acting and they really want it, and they really want it. Doesn't happen. But what does happen is, because you're so passionate, all of a sudden, wait a minute, I can write. And I know the
Right.
television business.
Hmm.
So they become a writer, or they become a director, or they become a scenic designer, or
Hmm.
it's really interesting how passion will
Translate and
send you in
transform.
different directions.
Yeah.
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 Well, speaking of writing, there's fans of your television career that may not be familiar with your work as an author. What inspired you to explore storytelling through writing? And, does it help you with your creative process because you're an actor or vice
Yeah, I
versa?
mean, yeah, that was a that helped a lot because you understood structure on a television or film or feature level, which is interesting because screenwriting is so much different than writing a novel because screenwriting is all visual. Everything that's on the screen has to be on the page. So that's the discipline that you have to have. I mean, like you can't say in a screenplay, you can't say he felt sick. You have to show it. He was turning green, he was throwing up, he was whatever. But in a novel, you can do that. So it's a completely a different discipline. Um, but I had always dabbled in writing and always loved it. And then when I got into the business and realized, how structure worked and everything, so I with a partner, I wrote a film called Elvis and Leon, which and this I think came from the kids in the show. I love working with the kids in the show, and Elvis and Leon is about a little 9 or 10-year-old orphan girl named Elvis, so named because she was abandoned on the steps of Graceland as an infant. And she's bounced around, all of these orphanages, and finally she's in Louisiana, and these people that are rednecks are trying to adopt her, and they take her on a bayou boat tour with a bunch of people, and she's at the back of the boat, nobody sees her. She gets falls off. Hurricanes coming in. She has to swim to shore. She's dodging alligators and poachers and all kinds of snakes and everything. She's running from the poachers, and her life is saved by this enigmatic old lunatic named Leon. Takes her back to his grotto underneath this huge cypress tree. And in that time, we find out that he is, or claims to be, Ponce de Leon. And he's been there for 471 years. But as he says, that's Tuesday, but no gifts, please. So we sold that film to Paramount, actually to Robert Evans' company, who was just coming off of The Godfather. So we sold it to them, and this is right after Small Wonder ended. And I was so excited. I said, "Oh my God." So I go one career into another. Oh, this is great. And it just slid. I just slid right into that writing career. So now we have this film that they love over there. And the producer, Robert Evans, takes the film. He gets Sean Connery to attach as Leon, and a 9-year-old Thora Birch as Elvis. And I thought, okay, my career's set. But as Hollywood would have it, that's not what happened. Sean Connery got throat cancer, so he had to drop out. Thora
Oh,
Bush wasn't Thora Birch wasn't a big enough star at that time to carry the film, so it got shelved. And then new ownership came in at Paramount, and so they trashed if it wasn't produced, it wasn't getting produced. My producer left Paramount, but he took the script with him. Um, and then so, but if that would have gotten made with Sean Connery, this would probably be a different conversation right now.
Well, going back to novels and writing, with such a storied, you know, acting behind the camera, writing movies, how different is it to sit down and you have to build an entire world, not only a character or a set of characters, but there has to be the atmosphere and the virtual set and so on. So what is the discipline like for you? And do you think the acting and writing, as far as entertainment is concerned, helps you in creating new worlds?
Well, that's it's a good question. I, I don't really know how to answer that. I can just answer it from my point of view, in that I had, and I think everybody does. You have stories in your mind. You say, I gotta, everybody says, you should make my life a screenplay. It would be so great. So everybody has a movie in them. It's just I kind of developed the wherewithal to actually do it and write it. But once you have that and you start creating characters, it's a wonderful feeling. You're absolutely right. It's just a great feeling of creating a world that nobody else knows except for you. And then you can share it with everybody. And if they share your vision, it could be a good movie. If not, well, it goes on the shelf with 900,000 other scripts. And believe me, I have some shelf space at the studios with my scripts, that actually sold but didn't get made, you know. Um, but now what I'm doing is I'm taking scripts that didn't sell and turning them into novels, which is fun because I got the story, I got the characters, I got the structure. I just have to weave it into the novel form, the prose form, which is kind of fun. It's a little daunting sometimes. Um, but I'm really having a good time. But I must say that writing has, unlike acting, writing has occasionally broken my heart. So
Well, when we first got in contact with you, you said you were in seclusion or you just came out of seclusion because you were writing your book.
right.
Is that how you normally do it? Do you seclude yourself? And can you give us a sneak peek into the new book?
Well, yeah, basically, I try to seclude myself occasionally. I can't do it all the time, but I'm ADD. So if there's it's that old thing. The guy said, yeah, I I went to the doctor and he said I was ADD, but I don't think he has a, hey, is that a chicken? That's
Squirrel, squirrel.
yeah, that's
Awesome.
squirrel. No, but that's where your head is at. So sometimes
Yeah.
I have to seclude myself and turn everything off, go by myself, just so I can concentrate and not rely on Ritalin or something. So um, so that's interesting. Uh, the movie, actually, the movie that the book that I really wanted to write is uh, it's called Molly. I wrote a film called Molly that sold to MGM years ago, and this was the one that broke my heart. I wrote this film. Molly is my daughter's name, and it was about it was about a girl, Molly, who was like 23, 24 years old, but she's brain damaged. She's been in a home, an assisted, living home because she was like a 2-year old. Um, and then the funding runs out of that home, and then she has to go live with her brother, who is not prepared for this whatsoever. So I wrote this film. There was a bidding war between I think it was MGM and Fox and Warner Brothers for the film, and it was a frenzy, and it was really great. And then MGM said, "Well, we'll give him the amount of money if you'll take it off the market." And my agent said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Yes, yes." So I did that. I wrote the film. Then MGM, and I feel comfortable saying this, by the way, MGM hired the wrong director, the wrong actress, and um, and then the director, who was an Australian guy, took this film where they paid me an exorbitant amount of money and rewrote the whole thing. And
Uh,
and why? Because to make it better? No. He told me. He said, "Well, I wanted an American writing credit." He said, "That's it? That's why you rewrote my movie?" He said, "Yes." I appreciate his honesty, but again, if that would have been a different director or different everything, again, this might have been a different conversation, but it isn't. But at any rate, so that I really wanted to write the novel of that, but once you sell a screenplay, if you don't write the novel within a year, it reverts back to IM. So it's still owned by MGM, and I can't do anything about it. But the one recently is a film called uh, Always Chasing Rainbows that I wrote. It almost sold several times, but it's a high budget film, and so it was tough. Rob Reiner had it for like 3 weeks and ultimately decided not to do it, but that's as close as it got. So that's the one that I'm taking right now and turning it into a novel, and it's an adventure, and that's the one I went underground for a while.
Well, you have to, when you get that done, I listen to audiobooks all the time. I used to read, the physical book, but
Right.
a lot of, with the way life is now, you just don't really have that time. And when you lay down to read the book, your eyes close immediately. So what I do is I listen to audiobooks when I walk, and I walk every day for exercise. So when you get the book done, I would appreciate you doing the audio version of it as well.
Oh, that's what. Well, Pam, listen, I'm right with you. I do audio. I've done audiobooks for maybe the last 40 years. I just love them. And
Oh,
now my eyes have gotten worse, so I now I'm exclusively doing audiobooks. So and I love audio. The reader makes the big difference in audio.
Absolutely.
And
hmm
and there's certain readers in Audible that I absolutely love and will listen to just about, they could read the dictionary. I'd be fine with that. But yes, I will
Thank
do
you.
the audio
I
unless I can get
I
one that's read the audio.
appreciate that.
Yeah. But yeah, but audio, that's a hard job, by the way. Um, I sat down with a book and started reading it, and it's interesting how you start to stumble and stuff. And I went, well, this is hard. Now, if you've got to read, Atlas Shrugged, 1,800 pages, you know, those are the guys that I think are really, really talented over there.
I
But
did
yes,
an interview on a different podcast recently with Dina Perlman, who's huge in the Audible catalog, as well as a lot of acting credits. And she, we were teaching the blind and low vision audience, what it actually, one of our highlights is audiobooks, of course. So, teaching what is the process like. And I really had no idea how much work goes into it. And keeping the character straight sometimes I think would be the most confusing for me.
yeah.
The voice and the characterization that you create for them.
Oh, absolutely. Did you ask him how he keeps the characters straight, how he differentiates them? Because I thought about this and I thought, well, maybe they have a color code. They
Yep.
highlight one character in yellow and one character in pink and one character. I don't know.
And color coded. So she Dina Perlman, and she tells us exactly that. She uses highlighters and different colored post-its, and the post-its are like the key points of the characterization. And if ever, the smaller characters, the sidebar characters, she'll
Right.
refer to the post-it as she's and to be able to do I had sight until I was 40 years old, so I can understand to be able to do all of that while still smoothly and fluidly reading is just absolutely amazing. But I digress, as I'm known to do. You spoke earlier about, wanting to quote unquote retire, and I'm sure you've come to that space quite a few times. But the energy we're feeling here, today, I don't think you're destined to fully stop anytime soon. So, are there any more bucket list items you want to check off in the business or in life in general?
Um, I would love for my golf swing to be back where it was when I was about 30. Uh,
I think that ship might have sank.
I know that's a big one. And that's frustrated. I mean, I know exactly after 65 years of golf, I know exactly how to make a good golf swing. I just can't convince my body to do it anymore, though.
Yeah, so I know that feeling. Yeah.
Oh man. And I still belong to a club back in LA. I just can't bring myself to give up the membership. And even though, I'm perilously close to playing the senior tees now. So that's a little depressing, but I love the club and I love golf, and I always have. This has been a big part of my life. Um, what was the question? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot.
That's
Any
okay,
bucket list
squirrel.
items in the business you're looking to cross off the list?
Oh, yeah. I don't think so. God, I would love to get one of my screenplays made the way I envisioned it instead of the way this, Molly was ruined. I would love to do that. I would love to have something, but I'm running out of time a little bit. There is a bit of ageism when it comes to writers, not so much actors. Actresses definitely ageism, but writers there's definitely ageism. And so my time is limited to get that screenplay that I like, um, filmed. So that would be on my bucket list, but it's a distant bucket. And so
I don't know. You surprise us, my friend. Life hands opportunities, and we just have to be brave enough to grab them. And it seems like your bravery and maybe a tad bit foolish,
yeah, yeah.
mix in a way that create magic. So we always ask our guests to basically kind of sell themselves. Share your social medias and any projects you want to direct folks towards books. Obviously keep watching Bold and the Beautiful, but and then write to
And
Brett
where to
Bell. But
buy his books and yeah,
yeah,
things like that. Hmm.
so sell
Well,
yourself
yeah,
now for us.
it's interesting. When I finish what I'm writing right now, I will get a hold of you and we can do another little talk, and I'll tell you all about it, and then if it's published, that would be great. And then if it goes on the New York Times bestseller list, see, I'm starting to float here a little bit. So uh
It'll be there because me and Anthony will read it a couple hundred times and blackmail our friends and
Yeah, yeah.
well, that's great. And I'd appreciate that. But I look forward to that. I look forward to getting something published besides a screenplay, which is going to be, it'd be a lot of fun.
If you can share your socials for our listeners.
like, are you on Instagram or Facebook or any of those
I'm
places?
on Facebook. I've kind of stayed off the Instagram and the other stuff. I don't know. I just have a few. I see some of my friends start to get in trouble there, and so I said
No.
I don't want to do that. Because you have to be so careful. I think, and this is me. I will never discuss politics because no matter which side you're on, you're gonna
Mm.
you're gonna make half the people angry. So
Yeah, we stay away from that for
yeah, so
sure.
I don't
Yeah,
want I don't want to do that. So but yeah, I mean I have an Instagram account, I have a Facebook account, and they're interesting, but my daughter tells me that Facebook is for old guys, and I said I am an old
I
guy.
hear that too. Do you have a website?
No, I don't. I mean these are things that I probably should have because and I was talking to someone who says, when you get your novel done, and he said you should actually have two or three ready to go, and do your website, put your novel on that, and that's how you kick things off.
Absolutely.
So I will do that.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree with them. And I'd be very, very happy to put it on my website as well. And I'm sure Anthony would
absolutely.
do the same. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I would be delighted. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for joining us today. We had a blast. And as I said earlier, we could listen to you all day tell stories. But instead, we will read some stories once that book gets out and continue to watch you on The Bold and the Beautiful and any other area of television or film that you're in.
Yeah,
Um,
it's interesting. I hope that Bold and Beautiful goes on and on and on. But even if everything ended today, I've had an absolutely fabulous 13 years on that show.
But
yeah,
that's
yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much. And like I said, Small Wonder was a big part of my childhood. So I'm so
Well,
glad I
I'm
got the
glad.
opportunity to fan out a little bit
I'm
today.
flattered. I'm flattered, Anthony. Thank you very much.
You're
Well,
welcome. And get in touch with us once when you want to come back. Well, we welcome you back anytime.
Well, great.
absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, you two. I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun for me.
Us
You're
too.
welcome.
To our listeners, you are about to hear all of our socials. And if you like this interview, please click like and share it around. The more visibility, the more interviews and stuff we'll be able to bring to you. Have a great rest of your day, week, month, and year.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Take Two Radio. That's with the number 2. For Take Two Radio The Remix, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Take Two Radio The Remix, again with the number 2. For all things Anthony and Sunday Edition, go to anthonycorona.com, and that's Corona. Until next time, thanks for listening.